Hey there, Mama. Welcome to the Marvelous Moms Club podcast. I'm Kirsten Tyrell, and I am the host of this awesome podcast where I get to sit down with moms from all over the world from various walks of life to share their stories of inspiration, knowledge, and all kinds of good stuff to remind you what a truly marvelous mom you are. So sit back and relax, or plug your headphones in and keep doing whatever you're doing, and enjoy today's episode of the Marvelous Moms Club. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. Today, I am chatting with PJ Jonas. You guys are going to love this episode. It's so fascinating to me. When I first read about her in an email, I was like, yes, sign me up. Let's chat with her. You guys, this is going to be so fun. So welcome to the podcast, PJ.
Thanks so much for having me. This is going to be great.
It is going to be great. Okay, so you're a mom of 8. We were just talking about this. And you moms of these giant families, which giant is like, it's a relative term because back in the day, 8 was like, oh, you only have 8 kids. I have 15. Nowadays, it's huge.
15, so well, 8's a good number.
8 is a good number. I like that number. So you're a mom of 8, and you also run a business called Goat Milk Stuff. And we're going to talk about how that was created pretty much because you had 8 children, and you were going about things in a little bit unconventional way to provide for them. So go ahead and kind of tell us about your kids. How many are boys? How many are girls? What's life like for you right now?
So as you mentioned, I have 8 kids. They range in age right now from 9 to 19. So they're all one at a time. I didn't have any multiples. They're all about a year and a half apart. My oldest is a girl, and then 5 boys in a row with 2 little girls at the end.
Wow.
So
I bet she was so excited.
Well, yeah, she kind of cried with each boy as it would come, because she wanted a sister really badly. So, but she's gotten kind of used to him now. So I have 8, and we do homeschool them. I don't send them to public school. I personally think that would be a lot harder trying to get everybody ready for the bus on time.
That's true.
It is to just teach them at home. So we kind of started, when the oldest ones were born, really starting to get into, healthier living. And so that was kind of the basis for how everything kind of took off, was just me wanting to do things a little bit more naturally for all of them.
Yeah. That is so crazy. First of all, let me address the fact that you homeschool 8 kids. And I swear this a year ago would have shocked me, but now it's like, it makes so much sense why you would homeschool versus public school with 8 children. How do you do it? What's your format a little bit? I'm just going to ask questions about that because I just recently started homeschooling and I have no idea kind of what I'm doing, but I have ideas of what I want to do. Are you recreating school at home, or is it a lot more exploratory and casual? Yeah,
so I don't do school at home at all. My husband was a junior high science teacher for 7 years, and I am an engineer by trade and tutored math for about almost 15 years.
Wow.
All of our parents were public school teachers. I actually had my dad, he was my physics teacher when I was.
Gosh.
So when we said we were going to homeschool, it was not met with a lot of support from family. But with all our experiences, we knew that we could do a better job.
Mm-hmm.
We try really hard to treat each of the children as individuals.
Yeah.
Really discover what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, and really to play to what their futures are going to be. So I don't cover the same stuff with all of them.
Mm-hmm.
My oldest, for example, is a writer. She actually does writing. She's working on Querying an Agent right now. She does a lot of editing for other authors. She's actually in the acknowledgments of 11 published books. So
that's awesome.
For her. But I don't do a lot of math with her. She has the basics. She knows how to do Excel. She knows how to budget. She knows how to,
life skills.
All that. Right. But, I always thought before, when she was really little, that we would do pre-calc and we would do trigonometry and all of those higher level maths. And I was like, you know what? This child really doesn't need that, because if I spend the time doing that, there are other things that she can't do. It's called opportunity cost. The time devoted for all of those general things. And that's kind of what the public school does, is they have to prepare everybody. They don't know what their specialties are. And so everybody has to have the same broad base.
Right.
Homeschooling, we really get to do it individually. Now, that being said, I don't do any curriculum. I don't do any, set anything. We really work on life skills. I tell people all the time that my children cover so much less ground than they would in the public school, but what they learn, they remember and they use. Yeah. And it's something that's really practical. So, for example, we'll talk about the business later, but all of their math really goes into the finances of the business. So when we have a business meeting, we bring out the financials, we bring out the Excel spreadsheets. Everybody has a copy. Everybody's able to manipulate their spreadsheets and get the facts that they want. They also all get salaries. So they're all constantly managing. Yeah, they have to pay their own taxes. They have to manage their own individual retirement accounts. They have to do all of that, starting as a 9-year-old.
Wow.
So a lot of the math is practical. Well, how do I get to this? Okay, well, let's talk about that, because they want to know, are they doing better than they were last year? What's the interest rate they're getting? All that sort of stuff. So it's very hands-on that way.
Wow. I'm so fascinated.
Yeah. I also am very, I say my biggest job as a homeschool mom is to put the right books in front of them.
Yeah.
Because if I can teach them to love to learn and to, how to learn, and put the right books in them, the whole world is open to them. So right now we're studying the American Revolution. We're doing, I don't know if you're familiar with the Broadway play Hamilton. So we're kind of focusing on that right now, and everybody's just loving it. And they're learning all of these things and they're so excited about it. I don't have to make them learn. I tell moms all the time, if you're fighting with your kids over homeschooling, if it's a battle, you're doing something wrong. Take a step back. Learning should be fun. Find out what they want to learn that. You don't have to cover everything. There's time for that. If they want to go to a 4-year accredited college, they can do that in those last couple of years.
Right.
What we do is we start when they're 16, they start attending, taking classes at our local community college.
Cool.
And that way they kind of have that, okay, if I decide I want to be a doctor, they know what a formal classroom looks like.
Right.
And get some of that so it's not intimidating to them at all.
Okay, so technical difficulties, but we're going to jump back in there. I love what you said about that, like forcing your kids, because we literally have just had a battle the last week. We've kind of gotten into homeschooling and wanting it to be a little less formal, let him guide his learning, and I love the way you're doing it. It makes me so excited, and also really excited to start incorporating our kids into our business someday, because I think those life lessons, those like actual things that you need to know to function in the world are so much more meaningful. And so I love that you didn't make her learn trigonometry and geometry, but if she needed it, she would have learned it. I really like the way, what did you call it? Missed opportunities or
opportunity cost. Yeah.
Yes.
That's an economic principle that a lot of people don't realize. And it basically means that the time you spent doing something, you're giving up doing something else that could be valuable. And so a lot of, that's why a lot of people are like, oh, well, I'm not going to, we're not going to do handwriting. Not because we don't want kids to do handwriting, but because there's other things that may be more useful to them in today's society.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I love that. I'm really excited about that. And I think it's so amazing when moms can not only have, I remember thinking like, I'm never going to have the patience to homeschool. And it does require a level of patience. But I think when you take away that forced learning attribute, that you're not like sitting here like you're going to sit at the desk and you're going to learn for 3 hours a day, it doesn't require as much patience as you think it will. Just the patience factor of having them home all the time.
Yeah, it really doesn't. I tell people that if there's something that you want to learn, because I do that all the time, I learn something and I just drag the children along with me. I'm like, okay, I'm learning this. Come on, this is fun. Let's all learn this together. Whether it's something for the business, whether it's something for healthy, whether it's something just history wise, I'm always dragging them into joining me. And because I'm excited about it, it's something that they tend to get excited about too.
Yeah, that's so true. So true. Okay, so going back to the beginning of your story, kind of when you decided to go into a healthy lifestyle, did you guys plan on having a large family before you started having kids? Did you know you were going to just keep going, or was that just kind of something that felt right and you did as you kept going?
Well, I always said that I wanted a large family and I wanted an even number of children. I did not want an odd number of children. I didn't want anybody to be left out. I wanted them to always be paired up.
Yeah.
And so my husband was like, okay, we'll just take it one at a time. So he was just
two at a time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we only did one at a time. So I always said I'd be willing to raise twins, but I never really wanted to carry twins.
Yeah. I don't blame you.
Yeah. So that worked out really well. And we ended up at 8 and we're like, okay, this is the right number. It felt like for the first time that, everybody was present. I don't know how to describe it other than that, to say that it felt like the family was complete.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's what holds me back from knowing if we're done or not. Cause I don't necessarily know that I feel that yet, but I also have no burning desire for another one at this moment. So I think it's great that you had that feeling of finality because it's important. Otherwise I remember wondering, will I ever stop having kids? Like, what if I never feel done? What if I have like 20 children?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, eventually you do.
Yeah. Thank goodness.
It always hits at some point, or pretty much you just get too old and it stops. So
Yeah,
either way, go on
you
forever.
have no choice. That's true. So going back to, again, sorry, I kind of diverted there, the healthy lifestyle, and how did you start incorporating like more natural eating, and how did that lead to your business that you have right now?
Well, so I started realizing how bad our current food supply is.
Yeah.
How unnatural, how all the chemicals that are sprayed, all the GMO, all that just nasty stuff. And so I started one thing at a time. I just, because it can be really overwhelming if you
Right.
try to completely go, all organic and just be pristine with your eating. It's really impossible to do. So I started with the big things, and I talked my husband into letting me get chickens because I wanted healthy eggs. And I knew what they were eating, and that they were out on pasture and getting sunshine and all of that.
Right.
So I kind of managed to get the chickens on the property. And the next thing I went after was the goats. And the reason I wanted the goats is because I really wanted raw milk. Raw milk's a little bit controversial. And there are some people that believe it's not safe. I obviously don't. I do believe that raw milk is safe when it's from healthy animals that are fed properly, and they're are milked in a clean environment. My kids have been raised on raw goat milk, and we've never had any problems with it. And so I managed to get a couple of the dairy goats, and that really it helped with the natural eating, but it also helped with the homeschooling because I wanted the children to have that understanding, and you can do it with a pet, you can do it with a cat or dog, but it's not quite the same level as when you have a farm animal that you have to milk twice a day, that you have to keep up with their food and make sure that they're healthy and get them bred. And so they have kids and then manage to deliver the kids and, and all that whole biologic process. That's a great science lesson, by the way.
Right. I'm sure.
So they really fit very neatly into our homeschooling and just the kind of family environment that we were trying to develop for the children.
Where are you guys at? Where do you live that you were able to have the farm animals?
Yeah, so we are in southern Indiana right now. We were when I started doing the natural living, we were actually living in New Jersey. My husband taught in downtown Trenton, so we were in inner city Trenton. And I did that in the backyard. I had gardens in the backyard. I was getting close to get chickens in the backyard of Trenton when we moved. But one of the reasons we actually moved to Indiana was because it was the homeschool laws out here are very friendly. It's not the only reason. There's some other things, but that was a big part of why we came out here.
Cool. Okay, so you started basically for your own personal reasons, which I love is how most businesses start because you're serving a need of your own family, and then you realize, hey, maybe there's something more to this. So it's not that you necessarily started selling goat milk. How did that turn into a business?
Yeah. Okay. So I had all the children in the bathtub one day. I was just letting them splash around. And for whatever reason, I picked up the baby wash that I had always used. And I don't know why I'd never looked at the ingredients, but I hadn't. And when I looked at the ingredients, I was just appalled that here I was doing all this, natural, healthy stuff. And I never realized that I was putting all these petroleum-based chemicals and all of these nasty chemicals that I would never eat, on their skin. And since the skin is the largest organ, a lot of that can be absorbed. Right. And I was like, that's it. I am going to learn right now how to make my own soap. I am never buying this stuff again. And I didn't have a clue what I was doing, but I did a lot of learning. And again, that was, modeling for the children that, you can figure things out. It doesn't have to be taught to you. You can go out and find the information. And I found that when you make soap, you need to use a liquid. And most soap is obviously just made with water. But I had the goat milk. And I was like, oh, goat milk's really good to, to drink. You hear those stories about Cleopatra taking the milk bath. I'll just put the milk in instead, right?
Why, might as well. It's right there and it's free.
Why not? And so when I made the soap, I put it in the shower and my husband's fingers stopped cracking and splitting.
Oh.
And that was a problem he had for years. Been being a teacher with the chalk on the blackboard and work gloves. It was something that we'd never really been able to get on top of for him. And so we were both shocked. We were like, oh my gosh, all we did was make our own goat milk soap and your fingers aren't cracking and splitting. We don't need to try petroleum jelly and, and all this nasty stuff to try and fix it. Right. And so that's kind of our aha moment that, okay, we really have something here that we could turn into a business and we could really benefit other people.
Wow. And
so what I did was I taught myself how to code a website because it was like before they had all those easy ones that you can do now. And so I had to learn coding and I coded and put up a website. And we said, okay, well, now we have to figure out how to get people to our website. So what we did was we made a bunch of soap. We cut it all up into samples. We had our business cards and we started doing some craft fairs. And we would go to craft fairs. We would sell some of it, but we would also give everybody free samples with our business card. And I started getting all of these phone calls from these moms whose children had eczema. And
Oh,
eczema was not something I was aware of. My children didn't have it. Nobody in my family had it. And I didn't realize what a massive problem eczema it was.
yes.
They do things like they do give them bleach baths and steroids. And, they have to tape their hands up when they're little so they don't scratch themselves and make themselves bleed. And I started getting these calls from these moms. They're like, oh, my gosh, the eczema's gone. And I have to get more. I have to get more. And they would tell everybody they knew because, after spending, hundreds if not thousands of dollars on all these steroid creams and all of these other things, just switching the soap was making this huge difference. And so that was really how goat milk stuff took off was all the people that the soap was helping with their eczema.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well now I need some because my son has eczema. I have eczema. We just moved from a beach town where there's lots of humidity to a very dry desert town. And I'm like, oh no, all of the moisture is leaving my skin. So that is so fascinating. So without even trying, you stumbled upon, you did the work, you made something natural. You stumbled upon a product that was incredibly helpful to not just your family, but you started seeing it fulfilling a need. And now, from what I hear, it's a $1 million business. Like you guys have grown it into something huge. So from starting right here, giving your kids a bath, looking at the ingredients, you guys have done really, really well. That is so exciting.
It's been crazy. God has blessed this business so, above and beyond what I could ever have imagined. We started where we started. We just had 3 acres. It was just a little homestead. We quickly outgrew that. We went looking for a new property. We now are on a 36-acre farm.
Wow.
Our farm backs up to Highway 65, which is like the major north-south route throughout the middle of the country. So we're like less than a mile off the interstate. We have billboards on the highway. We have all of these people coming in and stopping. And then, we're primarily an internet company, so they're able to stop in the store and then, try it and we can ship it out to them. But about a year and a half ago now, we finally got into the food products. So I named it goat milk stuff because I wanted to do all sorts of things with the goat milk. But the soap took off so fast, and it took us a really long time to kind of catch up with the growth, get all our infrastructure in place and all of that. And so a year and a half ago, we got our grade A dairy license. And so we're now a certified grade A dairy, which means we can sell the milk legally. We can sell cheese. We can sell, fudge and caramel and all those sorts of goodies. Wow. So it's really branched out into, kind of an agritourism location where people come, they can spend, we have what we call our baby goat experience, where people get to come and they can spend a half an hour in our baby goat pens, snuggling with the baby goats. And I tell people there's no way to stay in a bad mood when you've got, when you're surrounded by baby goats. They're just so much fun to be with. So between that and the tours, and we also just started making gelato. We haven't been able to ship that yet. Oh
man.
The dry ice, but if anybody's close to southern Indiana, we make that with the goat milk also. So it's really finally kind of fulfilling my vision of goat milk stuff, having all of these things, introducing people into how good goat milk is, because we're basically a cow country around here. People don't really understand how much healthier goat milk is and how much more digestible, and people who are lactose intolerant can usually drink goat milk without any trouble, even though the goat milk has lactose in it. Because it's so digestible, it doesn't seem to cause problems for their body. So it's really exciting to see how much it's grown and see the children just grow with it.
Yeah. So when did you guys launch it as a business? How many years ago compared to where you're at now with that awesome growth?
Yeah. So I started in 2008.
Wow.
2008 was our first. We started selling it, just carrying it with us in the summer, and we were doing our first craft shows in the fall. And then my husband was on full time by the end of 2009. So a little over a year it took for him to come on full time. Everybody works. All the like I said, all the children have jobs. They all do everything. And then we also have right now we have 6 full-time employees. Right now we're trying to hire a couple more at the moment, but right now it's 6.
That is so cool. I love it so much. I've been around a family before who has. It's not necessarily like a family-run business, but I guess it is, because when there's a meeting, they all kind of come in the conference room. They all know everything about what's going on in the business, and they don't just do one thing. They have a lot going on, and everybody takes their different roles and responsibilities as to different components of the business. And I saw that happening because they had older children, and I was like, this right here is my dream for the future. I'm so excited for this. So I think it's so awesome that not only are they have they been there to witness the growth of it, because I guess if that's about 8 years ago, yeah, your oldest has been there from the start and been able to watch it and probably understand it a lot more. And you had babies at the same time too. So it's not like you had this perfect like point in time where you didn't have any little ones to take care of. You guys grew this business as you've grown your family. So that's really cool.
Yep. Yeah, it was one of the reasons we started the packaging we did was because the little ones could open the cotton drawstring bag, put a bar of soap in, put a business card, and pull the string.
Oh my gosh. That's so cool.
We just involved them all. And I tell people that I've given the children a date. So when my youngest turns 18, so it's in about 8.5 years because she's 9.5 right now. My husband and I are done with the business. So I've told them we'll be happy to give interviews, we'll be happy to give tours, but we're no longer, paying a bill, making a decision, hiring anybody, firing anybody, doing all of those things. The children are going to have taken over all of that, and we'll just be more on an advisory role. So they're all in the process now of kind of learning some of those more things that take a little bit more tact, how to hire someone, how to manage someone, all of those sorts of things. The older ones, obviously not the younger ones. I wouldn't have a 9-year-old manage an employee. But, the older ones will, they'll sometimes sit in on the meetings, and afterwards we'll show them how we, what we write up and how we do all the paperwork. My son's learning to do the payroll, that sort of stuff. So they're really, right now they all say they want to work in the business. Obviously that's subject to change, and we would support them whichever they decide to do. But we're really trying to make it so they have the skills to take it over and handle it completely.
That is so awesome. How exciting and how fun for them to be able to take over something that they've also helped create from the beginning. I love that idea, and how great for you guys also to like let it continue on. Because at first I thought you were going to say like, we're just going to sell it and then we're going to go do all these things. But that is so fun, and I'm happy that they're excited to take it over too. And
yeah, and it's fun because my oldest son likes to say, people ask him, well, do you like what you do? And he's like, well, yeah, I enjoy it. He said, but it's like anything. After you do it a few hundred times, it's just a job. But it's, all their friends will come in, and we're the cool place to come, and they'll be like, oh, can I help you with your work? And my kids are like, sure.
If you think that's fun, that's just fine.
Exactly. Classic Tom Sawyer kind of stuff. So
yes.
It's really fun to watch them do that. And the other thing that a lot of parents don't understand is the benefits financially to having a family business.
Yeah.
So, let's say that your kids are involved in a traveling soccer team, and it costs $2,000 a year or whatnot. And usually the parents, they work, they get their paycheck, they pay their taxes, and then they pay for that $2,000 out of their pocket. Mm-hmm. Well, if you have a family business and you set it up properly, which is not hard to do, you can pay your children. So let's say you decide to pay your children for their work that $2,000. Well, that $2,000 is a tax write-off. So you're not paying the taxes on that. And then the child can go and pay for their soccer team or whatever. So there's a lot of lessons in there, and a lot of things that can actually save the family money if they think about that and set it up properly.
Wow. You guys are so smart. So smart. Did you ever?
Yeah. There's been mistakes. It hasn't always been super smooth, but we definitely try and learn from our mistakes when we do make them.
Yeah. Did you ever dream that this would be how your life would unfold? Like, did you have any big ideas or big plans to have a family-run business?
Absolutely not. I mean, I'd prayed for a family business those last couple of years before we started, and I'd been making soap, but I never I never thought of the soap as a business.
Right.
It's been amazing because one of the things I think is really important that I think a lot of today's children are lacking is sales skills. Mm-hmm. And I tell people, even if you don't have a sales job, you're always selling something, whether it's your ideas, whether it's yourself for a business, whether it's yourself for college.
It's true.
You have to have those skills. And so by introducing children, fairly early to what it's like to talk to complete strangers, to be able to, have I hate to say sales pitch because that sounds so negative, but your benefits for what it is you're trying to sell. And then even more importantly, for them to be able to handle rejection when the person is not interested in what they're offering.
Yeah.
You can't, undervalue those kinds of skills for someone. It just makes them, steps ahead of a lot of their contemporaries.
Yeah. I can only imagine. Do you see some of your older children also having like innovative brains and having their own ideas that have contributed to some of the growth of the business? Like, because I feel like these children that keep being born in this next generation, they're just so advanced and they're so smart and they have such forward-thinking brains. Have you seen some of that happen as well, where they've
Yeah.
given the
So
best ideas?
yeah, so one of the things that, my husband will get a little bit frustrated sometimes because, we'll say, okay, well, what's what we're going to do? And the kids are like, oh, well, we could do this or we could do this and we could do that. And he's like, can't we just do it? What
Just
we said.
simple.
And I said, we're kind of reaping what we sowed because we've raised them all to be leaders and to be thinkers and to question things.
Yeah.
And is there a better way of doing it? So it's kind of funny, okay, you have to teach them, all right, well, we need to be respectful about this. You need to do it in the right way and not think that you know better than dad or mom.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is how you present your ideas. And there's plenty of times that we've changed what we do and do it the way the children do. My oldest son, who's 18, is really coming into his own and really liking to disagree with some of the things that that I think we should do it this way. And he's like, no, you're wrong, Mom. We should do it that way. And I'm like, all right, well, I think you're wrong. But if you want to take it over, go ahead and, let's see what happens. So
yeah,
it's really fun to watch them, kind of develop themselves that way.
Yeah. So with it being a family-run business and you guys are there, you're right there, like in the business, it's home pretty much. What are your opportunities? Like, do you have, I know you said you have 6 employees. Do you guys have opportunities to go on trips as a family? How do you have the ability to leave when it is such like an intensive or just an involved business?
Yeah, so we're a farm family at heart. We're milking 64 goats right now.
Oh my gosh.
We're planning to milk 80 next year. We had 114 baby goats born this year. We're expecting about 140 next year.
Wow.
So we really are, it's 7 days a week. I mean, you don't get Saturday off, you don't get Sunday off, because you have to milk, you have to feed, you have to do all of that stuff. That being said, what we do because we work so hard is we take a lot of vacations, and we take longer vacations. So the dairy goats, they milk for 10 months of the year. It's a 5-month gestation. So you milk them for the first 3 months and then you dry them off the last 2 months of their pregnancies. So during that dry time, we actually head to Florida. We are very blessed. My parents work for Disney World.
Oh my gosh.
They get massive discounts. So we go down for at least 2 weeks at Disney World. And that's before kidding season because that tends to be a pretty, work intensive time.
I'm sure.
We also go to the beach for 2 weeks before the retail season starts, before the holiday season starts, which is great when you're a homeschool family because everybody else goes back to school and all the rates at the beach for beach houses drop in half or less. So, everybody goes back and we head down to the beach and we get these, these really cheap rentals. So it's really, it works really well for us. And that kind of gives us a really big break before we get to, we have to go through all the retail of the holiday season. And then we try and get, a summer. We don't always get a summer vacation, but we actually have a trip planned to New York City to summer 2017. So we know we're going to get that one.
Oh,
and then the
awesome.
kids run. Yeah. I'm so excited. I love New York City. But the kids run cross country. So they do that. It's probably about 6 months of the year. So we'll get away from meets for that. Like we just came back from Tennessee. We got to go and visit the Hermitage, which is Andrew Jackson's home.
Ooh.
And that was where the race was. And so we got to go down there for the weekend and do that. I got a whole bunch of Andrew Jackson books I'm all excited to read now.
That's so cool. I love it.
Yeah. So, we do, it's work hard and then play hard is kind of our motto. So
yeah,
that's how we make it work.
Well, I love that. I'm so glad because I can tell it's definitely a work hard type of business. And so you're teaching your kids all the things I think we all want to teach our kids, which is the value of hard work. And I love that it's also like a labor intensive work. It's physical work and it's mental work and it's like learning and getting ahead and figuring out how a business functions and also how to do the work and know all the steps of the business, which that's just so cool. It's such a traditional American dream that you're able to instill in your children in a time when it seems like nobody's doing that anymore, when nobody has those traditional values or discipline or, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like in this day of social media and the world moving so quickly, kids are just becoming so entitled. I feel like that with my own kids that I'm totally failing and I'm just raising these entitled children. So I love that they're learning the value of hard work and that they're involved in it. I think that is so cool and such a great example. Even if we all can't start a farm and can't, I literally though had the thought the other day, what if we just move to a farm? I think my son would love to work on a farm. He would love to milk cows and whatever all the time. It would so fit with his personality. He's just a physically active kid. So anyway, that was just a side tangent.
Yeah, no, it really is a dream that a lot of people have.
Yeah.
I get that all the time. Oh, you're living my dream. And I'm like, you know what? You can too. We did not like, the lifestyle the kids were having in inner city Trenton, New Jersey.
Yeah.
And we moved cross country. We moved to the Midwest.
Right.
We'd never been there. We didn't have a job, but we knew with hard work we would be fine. And we just kind of, followed our passion. And I tell moms all the time, start with a garden. Just start in the backyard. I did it in the inner city. You can do it wherever. If you do not literally live in an apartment, you don't have any land, you can find someone with land who would be happy to let you plant a garden, and just give them some of your produce. It's really not hard to do at all. And, do that. Figure out how to maintain it, how to, and then start with canning it and putting up the food and doing all of that. You can learn so much with you don't even need a super large garden. It can be fairly small if you're working it really well.
Yeah.
And there's out there called the square foot garden, which is a really good starter for people. We can do a lot with a little bit of space. So that's something. And that's a great way to get your kids out involved, get them eating fresh vegetables, which I think we all like our kids to eat more fresh vegetables. My kids, we have a really large garden, and they'll just go out there. They'll eat their breakfast out there. They'll eat their, their lunch out there. They're always just, popping stuff, rolling up lettuce and eating that for lunch when it's blackberry seasons. I mean, we have blackberries coming out our ears, and
wow.
There's so much you can do. You don't need a farm. A farm is great, but you really don't need a farm to start to take advantage of those kinds of opportunities.
That's so true. I'm so glad that you said that and kind of brought it down into perspective and reality for the rest of us who can't necessarily go and have a humongous farm. So that's really cool. And by the way, I'm totally determined. My husband is way against this idea because he's seeing a long time in the car with the kids as sounding like a horrible idea. But I told him I want to, now that we're homeschooling, now that we both work from home and we can work anywhere, I want to go on a cross-country road trip. So it made me really excited when you said that you're right off the freeway that goes across the country because I would love to stop by.
Yeah, we'll be happy to put you to work. You want to teach hard work? We'll be happy to do that.
Oh my gosh, I'm not even kidding. It's going to be pitched to my husband today. Like, we're going to plan that we're stopping here on our way and the kids are going to learn how to milk goats or whatever it takes. They're going to, do some actual hard work.
It's a great life. I tell people all the time, I am living my dream. I get to work. My husband's home full time. I get to work with him. I get to work with my children. I get to help people with their skin issues. I get to, get the milk for people who can't drink cow milk. And, we get to do it all together, on our farm. And it's just, it's a lot of hard work. Raising 8 children is a lot of hard work. Having a farm, having a business is a lot of hard work, but it's so worth it. And I would not trade it for anything.
Well, I don't blame you. I would totally trade places with you right this very minute. All the hard work involved as well. So I think it's so cool what you guys have done. And I'm so excited to share this episode out. I think it's so unique and so different from anything I've ever shared. And I'm really excited at what you guys have created and what you guys are doing, and definitely want to get myself some goat milk soap because my skin needs it. It's hungry for it.
Yeah. Well, this is a good time to mention I do have a free bar of soap for all your listeners.
Awesome.
If that's something they want to take advantage of. All they need to do is go to our website, which is www.goatmilkstuff.com. And then to get to the free bar, it's goatmilkstuff.com/Marv soap, like Marv as in marvelous. So just MARVSOAP, and that's all one word. And it'll give them the directions on how to get their free bar.
That is so exciting. Thank you so much, PJ. I know everybody needs to go take advantage of this. So head there right this second. You guys are listening, so you have the ability to go get online right now and get your free bar of soap. I'm so excited for the fact that you're offering that. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
Okay, so question I ask everybody, whether they're on here to talk about business or family or both, what makes you a marvelous mom?
I think that I work really hard to do what's best for the children. Mm-hmm. And that means not always doing what makes them happy. Yeah. And that's something that's really hard to do, when your kids want to do something and they're all excited and you're like, you know what? No, that's not what's best for you. What's best for you is to, we need to take an early night and we need to get some sleep.
Yes.
You're going to need to wash all of those dishes because that's what needs to be done.
Right. Yeah.
What it is, I think it's really, really easy for a lot of moms to just want to make their kids happy. And you talked about the entitlement thing before. I also see that as a huge, huge problem. I don't think that cell phones and video games and all of that are what's best for the children. I think it's easy. I think it's nice to be able to put them down and get a break sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's not what's best for them. And so that's something that I try really hard to not always do the easy thing, not always do the happy thing, but do the best thing.
I love that so much. I'm so glad you answered like that, because I feel like I've said this a million times on this podcast. Whenever I need something personally, that's the message I get for the day. And I'm at a point right now where I'm making those hard choices that are not fun, but they are the right choices. So thank you for reaffirming what I know I needed to hear, and hopefully everybody else needed to hear who's listening right now, because that is so powerful and so true.
Well,
so thank
good.
you.
I'm glad to say it.
Well, you're awesome, PJ. Everybody go keep up with her. Head to the website. Go check out the show notes to see all things PJ and her whole entire awesome family and all the things that they're doing over at Goat Milk Stuff. Thank you so much for spending time with me today and sharing what you do and sharing all these positive, wonderful messages. I've really appreciated it.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. Come back any day.
All right. You let me know.
Okay. Everybody else listening, have a marvelous day, and we'll see you on the next episode.